see a pop-up button there. And I also want to share my screen here real quickly. And I'm going to share a slide. Here we go. Again, this webinar, Doing Your Part for Earth Day, is sponsored by DuPage County Stormwater Management, and it worked today. They are established in 1989, and they oversee all the water quality management projects and programs in DuPage County. And so with that, I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to introduce Ryan Anderson, who is the Community Outreach Coordinator for Integrated Pest Management at the Outreach Coordinator for Integrated Pest Management Institute of North America, or IPM Institute. With that, take it away, Ryan.
Great, thank you. I'm going to share my screen right now.
Perfect. Now I'm going to stop my video and mute, and it's all yours.
All right. All right. Well, hello, everyone, and thank you for having me. As was mentioned before, my name is Ryan Anderson, and I'm the Community IPM Outreach Specialist for the Integrated Pest Management Institute of North America. We're an environmental nonprofit based out of Madison, Wisconsin, and our mission is to advance sustainability in agriculture and communities through market mechanisms based in integrated pest management. And so for the IPM Institute, I manage our Midwest Grows Green Sustainable Landscaping Initiative, whose mission is to accomplish large-scale lawn and land care behavior change by sharing pesticide reduction information at 3 critical spaces where lawns and landscapes influence our lives. First, at our parks, where our children, pets, and wildlife live, learn, and play, we're coming up with demonstration sites for natural lawn care and sustainable landscaping through our pesticide-free parks program. Second, at our retailer stores, where we make most of our lawn care decisions, our point of purchase program is helping these retailers like hardware stores eco-label their natural pesticides and organic fertilizers. And then finally, at our homes, where we live alongside lawns, our community engagement program is sharing pesticide reduction information many times and in many different ways to inspire action that actually reduces these synthetic inputs. So it's a pretty comprehensive program, and why it's so comprehensive is because turfgrass is our nation's largest irrigated crop. It covers more than 40 million acres in our nation, which is more than triple the amount of acreage as devoted to irrigated corn. And as you can imagine, we use a lot of pesticides, fertilizers, and water to maintain these 40 million acres. Looking at pesticides alone, the US lawn and garden sector applies nearly 90 million pounds of this product each year. The EPA found that 82% of urban homeowners will apply pesticides on their lawns. And the National Wildlife Federation did a study that found that the average urban homeowner applies up to 3 times more pesticides per acre on their lawns than what farmers will use on their crops. I want to just clarify what I mean by when I say pesticides today. I refer to pesticides as any chemical that is designed to eliminate, kill, or repel an animal, plant, or insect. So this is a very general definition, but is also the definition that is used by the US EPA. This definition includes insecticides, herbicides, fungicides, larvicides, and fungicides. All these chemicals end in "-cide", all of them are poisons, and often the biological processes that these chemicals impact are not unique to their intended targets. Our high use of these products has far-reaching impacts for our children, our pets, our wildlife, and our water quality. Looking at human health alone, studies have linked pesticides to various neurological, behavioral, hormonal, immune, and reproductive system disorders. Of the 30 most commonly used lawn pesticides, studies have found that 19 of them are carcinogenic, 13 are linked to birth defects, 21 to reproductive effects, 15 are known neurotoxins, 26 are linked to liver and kidney damage, and 27 are known asthma triggers. And for Midwest Grows Green, we are most concerned about these health effects for our children, because children are still developing and they exhibit different behaviors to us adults, such as rolling around the grass or actually putting grass in their mouths, that make them more susceptible to pesticide exposure. Case in point, the rise in asthma in children over the past 20 years or so. Between the years of 2002 and 2010, asthma rates in children increased by 6 to 15% each year. And one of the contributing factors to this rise is certainly spray pesticides. One study found that children exposed to spray pesticides in their first year of life quadrupled their chance of contracting the disease. Another link to pesticides and a childhood disease is childhood cancer. And this is actually a graph of cancer rates in males and females ages 15 to 19 years between the years of 1995 and 2016. This was created by the American Cancer Society. And you can see a number of these cancers have been on the rise in this cohort or age group. And there are a lot of contributing factors to the rise in cancer rates. It's certainly not just spray pesticides, but we have heard some recent research linking some of our more common lawn pesticides to some of the diseases you see up here on this graph, including non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. In 2015, the International Association for the Research on Cancer classified glyphosate, which is the active ingredient in Roundup and the most sold herbicide on the market, as a probable carcinogen due to its link to non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is NHL that you can see on the screen, this kind of light purple line that has been on the rise in both males and females. I'm not going to talk too much about glyphosate today, but do know this sent shockwaves through the lawn and garden sector, as well as the agriculture and the natural resources. And if you have any questions about alternatives to glyphosate, please do ask me after this presentation, and I'll try to address them to the best of my ability. I am going to be doing a lot of focus, however, on another herbicide that is commonly used in our lawns and gardens, and that is called 2,4-D. 2,4-D is the active ingredient in Scott's Turf Builder Weed and Feed, which is the most sold lawn and garden product out there on the market. And right now you can see on your, so what a lot of people are arguing with 2,4-D and some of these other herbicides is the half-life of these products is relatively short. And so the risk of children being exposed to these products is also relatively low. But as this study or this graphic will show you, that's not exactly the case. It's a little hard to read, so I'm going to walk everyone through what you're seeing on your screen right now. This is a study of 2,4-D presence inside a home pre and post application. So 2,4-D is being applied outside our homes, and they want to see if this product is getting inside our homes. So the different rows represent different homes within your house: home A, home B, home C. And then the x-axes are rooms within these homes: the entryway, the living room, the dining room, and the kitchen. And there are three sets or different sets of bar graphs here. First, we have white bar graphs, which represent 2,4-D presence inside a home pre-application. And what they do is they vacuum up air particles, and then they measure 2,4-D presence in that vacuum after doing this process. Black columns is 2,4-D presence inside a home 24 hours after application of the product. Once again, using a vacuum for these chemicals. And then finally, we have our striped columns, which are 2,4-D presence inside homes post-application, 24 hours post-application, using a wipe, not a vacuum. What you're seeing right now is you should see a lot of black columns. The next most frequent are striped columns, and the least frequent are the white columns. So what this is telling us is that even though these products are being applied outside our homes, somehow, some way, they are getting inside our homes. And there are a number of ways that these products can get inside our homes. You could leave a window open. You could track it on your shoes. Your pet could bring it in through its fur. And once this chemical gets inside our homes, theoretically, the soil half-life, or just the half-life of these products, increases because you now don't have the sunlight or the soil microbiology to break down these chemicals. And then the risks of these chemicals to our children as well as our pets also increases because the half-life has increased for these products. Speaking about pets, our pets are very vulnerable to pesticides, especially our dogs. Dogs, just like children, are smaller in size, but they exhibit even more risky behavior for pesticide exposure. They roll around in the grass. They sniff the grass. They dig in the dirt, and they also lick their paws. And in fact, studies have found that dogs exposed to herbicide-treated lawns double their chance of contracting canine lymphoma. In certain breeds, their chance of contracting bladder cancer increases by 4 to 7 times. Now, if these chemicals are going to be harmful to our dogs, they're also bound to be harmful to our wildlife. Going back to that research of the 30 most commonly used lawn pesticides, of those 30, studies have found that 16 of them are harmful to birds, 24 to fish and other aquatic wildlife, and 11 are deadly to our most important pollinator species, the bees. And I'm sure you've heard that bees and pollinators have been on a global decline across the world recently. The final environmental effect I want to talk about today before the solution is water quality. And the United States Geological Survey found pesticides in all rivers, lakes, and streams that they tested, and in up to 1/3 of the underground aquifers that they tested. Now, when you think about the rise in urbanization, this shouldn't be all too surprising, right? Because we're seeing more of these impervious surfaces that is facilitating the transfer of pesticides from our lawns into our waterways and bypassing the natural filtration services that Mother Earth provides. But this isn't just a problem for pesticides, it's also a problem for the fertilizers that we're applying onto our lawns and gardens. You might have seen aerial images of that massive dead zone that is out there in the Gulf of Mexico. And that is a result of sediment and nutrient pollution or runoff into the Mississippi River. Our fertilizers that we apply onto our lawns definitely do contribute to that dead zone, because a lot of these fertilizers include phosphorus, which is a limiting nutrient for algae. So once algae come into contact with phosphorus, it starts to bloom, and eventually that algae has to die. And microorganisms need to decompose that algae. And during that decomposition process, that uses up or sucks up oxygen from the waterways, and it makes it very hard to live for fish and other aquatic life. So when I talk about the solution today, which is natural lawn care, yes, we are concerned about the pesticides that we're applying onto our lawns and gardens, but we're also very concerned about the fertilizers, and we want to reduce or even eliminate the synthetic fertilizers that we're applying onto our lawns and gardens. So let's jump right into the solution, which for Midwest Grows Green is the systemic natural lawn care approach. And we define natural lawn care as a systemic approach that refrains from using synthetic chemicals and focuses on building healthy soil, deep roots, and strong shoots to support healthy, resilient turf grass. It's a little hard to see, but I bolded 3 terms within this definition: building healthy soil, deep roots, and strong shoots. These are 3 factors, environmental factors, that we want to help benefit with all our practices. So to create a favorable environment for turf grass to grow, we need to focus on processes that benefit the healthy soil, the deep roots, and those strong shoots. And these processes include practices like aerating compacted soil, mowing high, watering properly, overseeding, fertilizing organically, and adding organic matter dense materials. This is a drastically different approach from conventional lawn care, which I consider a product-based approach. You've probably heard of these 4-step or 5-step programs. Apply this weed control, apply this fertilizer at this time over the year, and you're going to get that green, weed-free lawn that is so desirable across the United States. That is not in line with natural lawn care and the process-based approach at all. Natural lawn care does not work in a 4-step or 5-step program because we're focused on the biology of growing resilient, healthy turf grass. I compare how we're caring for our lawns or our turf grass like how we should be caring for our own bodies, right? There are 2 factors that we can control the most for our bodies: our diet and our exercise. And these are the 2 factors that we can also control the most for our turf grass. For our turf grass, it's about understanding the needs of our soil as well as the turf grass plant, and then feeding the soil with organic matter dense materials like organic fertilizers, leaf mulch, grass clippings, and compost top dressing. And then for the exercise, It's about culturally maintaining a dense, deeply rooted turf grass system that is out competing weeds and pests for air, water, sunlight, and nutrients. And we can culturally maintain this healthy grass through some of these practices that I mentioned already, such as aerating compacted soil, mowing high, and watering properly. So let's start right off with the diet. And if we're going to compare our bodies to our lawns for the diets, I often talk to homeowners and say, what is the first thing that you generally do if you're going to go on a diet for your own body? And the first thing that we generally do is we assess our initial state, because how can we get to our desirable state without knowing what we're starting with? And for our bodies, this could be a couple things. We could weigh ourselves and we could say, I want to cut 10 or 20 pounds off within the month. We could look at our diet over the past 2 weeks and make adjustments from there. Or we could go to a doctor and a nutritionist and let them tell us how we should care for our bodies. We can take all these steps for our lawn too, and it's called getting a soil test. Midwest Grows Green recommends getting a soil test once every 3 years for your lawn. And these soil tests provide a wealth of information about your lawn or garden. It'll first look at the nutrients, like the primary macronutrients of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, but also some of these secondary macronutrients like calcium and magnesium, and even some of these micronutrients like cadmium. After that, it'll look at the pH. Do you have too acidic soil or do you have too basic soil? And that pH number will tell you how well your roots can access the nutrients that are already in your soil. It will also give you a figure on organic matter content, and I'll talk about the importance of organic matter just a little bit later in my presentation. And then finally, it'll often provide you with the soil's texture analysis. Is your soil, does it have high clay content or high sand content or high silt content? And after it's looked at all these different figures, it will often offer you a recommendation for how to treat your lawn or garden. And when you get that recommendation, it's important to know that there's 16 essential nutrients for healthy soil and plant life. Synthetic fertilizers often only focus on 3 of these essential nutrients. It is the primary macronutrients of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Meanwhile, organic fertilizers often provide more of these nutrients to your soil. And they provide these nutrients across the entire living soil organism, not just the top layer that we see for synthetic fertilizers. And it's really important to understand the difference between how synthetic fertilizers work and how organic fertilizers work. Synthetic fertilizers are mineral-based, often petroleum-based products, and they send their nutrients almost straight to the roots of the plant. So you can get really quick growth with these synthetic fertilizers. But remember, we're dealing with this living complex organism, and we want to spread these nutrients across the entire organism. And to do that, what organic fertilizers do is they use the biology, the earthworms, the bacteria, the archaea, to break down the material that is in organic fertilizers and then spread their nutrients across the entire organism, not just the top layer. And this process tends to be a little bit slower than synthetic fertilizers, but that's a good thing because the plant is getting the nutrients as it grows, not just an instant flush of nutrients like what we see for synthetic fertilizers. So on our website, midwestgrowsgreen.org, I'll cover a number of resources that are on that website, including a fact sheet called Products for Our Natural Lawn. And that goes through some popular organic fertilizers for your lawn, the nutrients that they provide, how to apply this product, and how frequently to apply this product. Another resource that we have is lawnandland.org, which is really for for the management of highly trafficked sports and recreational fields like soccer and football fields. But on that website, we have this really good visualization of the information that is included in that products for your natural lawn list. So as you can see, it goes through everything that I just covered, and it also looks at burn risk. So burn risk tends to be a problem more for synthetic fertilizers because remember I said They give their nutrients at a really fast rate for most of them. But some of these organic fertilizers also give their nutrients out at a faster rate than others, like alfalfa meal and blood meal. So it's just a consideration that you could burn your turf with these two products, but with the other products, very low chance to burn your turf, and it's the same as for alfalfa meal and blood meal. Okay. I will give a disclaimer about fertilizers, whether synthetic or organic. They tend to focus on the nutrients, which nutrients is important for turf grass growth. There's no denying that. But if we're likening our turf grass and our soil ecosystem to our bodies have structure, right? And our soils have structure too. And the desirable structure for our soils is a sponge-like porous soil structure that retains air, water, and nutrients, but at the same time lets those air, water, nutrients get in and out of the soil profile. So then we don't have flooding issues or waterlogging of our turf grass roots. And to obtain that sponge-like soil structure, we need to add organic matter-dense materials. This includes things like leaf mulch or grass clippings, and finally, compost. If you can source high-quality compost, that will work wonders for your lawn and garden. It's best to apply compost out in the fall to condition your soil for the next growing season, but you can really never have too much compost for your lawn and garden. I like to say that any time that you're going to overseed your grass, you should apply compost because that will help your seed, your turf grass seed, start germinating. So if you can get your hands on this compost, here's what you're going to want to do. You're going to want to first core aerate your lawn. This means taking out holes about 3 to 6 inches deep, leaving those holes on the top of your lawn, letting them dry for about a day or two, and then mowing them back over to return their nutrients to the lawn or garden. Now you have holes where you can actually help the compost as well as your seed incorporate into your soil. Then you want to find some way to spread the compost. You can do it with a wheelbarrow and a spade that you can see in the image to the bottom left, or you can buy or rent a compost spreader like this rolling compost spreader that you see in the bottom center image. The one on the bottom left will take longer than the bottom center. And once you get that compost spreader, you want to spread enough compost for about a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch in depth. Your lawn will look like the image to the bottom right, and after a few days, your grass will start growing and you won't see as many brown spots or anything like that across your lawn or garden. Okay, you've been following our diet for our lawns and over this spring, and your lawn looks like this coming up in the summer. Can you now use an herbicide? And my answer would be not yet, because any diet is best accommodated with exercise. And whenever I talk about lawn fitness, I like to bring up this graphic. It's called a read your weeds table. And on the left column are popular weeds within your lawn and garden, such as clover, crabgrass, and dandelions. And on the top row are their favorable conditions, like compacted soil, mowing height too low, low pH, excessive watering, and poor drainage. And what most people can determine from this graphic is that if you culturally maintain healthy soil and healthy grass, you're going to eliminate many of these favorable conditions that you see up there on the top row. So let me take you through an example. Look at the very first weed, annual bluegrass. Its 3 favorable conditions are compacted soil, mowing height too low, and excessive watering. All 3 of these can be managed culturally. Compacted soil, I already talked about compost. That's a great way to reduce compaction because of its porosity and the organic matter content. But I also talked about core aeration. That is the best way to reduce soil compaction by poking those holes out. And so we recommend aerating at least in the fall for your lawn and garden. Fall lawn care is the most important time for lawn care because once again, it's going to condition your soil for the next growing season. If you're getting a lot of foot traffic on your lawn or garden, you might want to consider 2 aerations per year, and that second one being in the spring. Mowing height too low. We recommend mowing no lower than 3 inches. Mowing high helps your lawn in 2 ways. First, you have these really tall shoots for your turf grass, and that will outshade weed seeds for sunlight. Those weed seeds need sunlight to germinate. So if you're taking away the sunlight, they might not even pop up at all. The second thing that mowing high does is it doesn't stress your grass plant a lot, because you're not taking off a lot from the top of your turf grass plant. And so as it's not stressed out a lot, your turf grass will start to tell itself to grow its roots, which is the most important part of the grass plant, because those roots contain the hormones and the nutrients. So if you have a really deeply rooted turf grass system coming up this fall, next spring, you might not even need to fertilize, because those nutrients and those hormones will tell your grass to green up rapidly next spring. The final thing that we have is excessive watering. And this is a common problem that we see for homeowners. And the recommended watering is no more than 1 inch per week for turf grass. And this should be one thorough watering, not spread out over the week. Watering deeply and infrequently, once again, helps ensure this deep root growth right there. The best time to water is between 4 a.m. and 8 a.m. The next time is 8 p.m. to midnight. So here's what the lawn care diet and exercise schedule looks like this spring. Remember, I kept on saying we want a dense turf grass system. So if you have any bare spots or anything like that in your lawn this April, you want to fill that in with grass seed. And the best way to help that grass seed germinate is with a 50-50 mix of compost and topsoil. You might also want to apply compost tea. I didn't talk about compost tea, but this is basically fermented compost. Compost doesn't act really quickly. Remember, it's kind of like a soil conditioner almost for your grass, but compost tea can extract all the microbiology and the nutrients from that compost, and it can get those microbiology as well as the nutrients to your grass a little bit quicker than what normal compost would do. This May, test your soil to determine what nutrients you need or what fertilizers you should apply and what soil amendments you should apply. And then once you get that recommendation, aerate to help the overseed or the fertilization that you decided to do this May. June, irrigate as needed. Make sure to recycle those grass clippings. Don't throw them in the garbage, and apply compost tea. All right, you have followed our diet, you followed our exercise schedule, and you still have weeds this summer or next year. Now, can you consider a natural or organic weed control product? And the answer is yes, but use caution. The problem with natural and organic weed control products is they are contact herbicides, which means they will kill the weeds that you apply on them, but they'll also kill the grass if they come into contact with them. Also, these products do not get to the roots of the weed or plant, which means that you're going to have to apply these products multiple times over the year, very similar to a regular herbicide product. But, which is why we continue to stress that those cultural controls, because any turf grass scientist will tell you that a dense, deeply rooted turf grass system is the best defense against any weed or pest. But at the same time, if you're not applying any of our cultural practices, and if you're just using these natural or organic weed control products, you are just going to be spending money on these products year after year, and you're not going to get favorable results. The other thing to consider if you do see weeds is, you should never expect these natural controls to work overnight. We say that we need about 3 to 5 years for these controls to work. Because remember, we're dealing with a living organism right here. And these living organisms has developed a dependence on synthetic pesticides and fertilizers if you've been using these products a lot, a physical dependence. I liken it to an individual who has developed a drug addiction, right? They have a physical dependence, and it takes a long time to weed that person off of drugs. It takes years of rehabilitation. Well, it takes 3 to 5 years of rehabilitation to wean our grass off of synthetic fertilizers and pesticides. And I understand if you might be impatient or hesitant to wait that 3 to 5 years. That is a long time. I do have a more short-term solution to eliminating your synthetic pesticide and fertilizer use, but it's going to require that you change your perception or definition of what a weed actually is. You see, the formal definition for a weed is any plant that we don't want in a space. But at one time in the US, we wanted many of these plants in our lawns and gardens that we now consider weeds. You see, dandelions were actually brought in from Europe by the Pilgrims because they believed its bitterness aided with digestion and the urinary system. Well, in fact, dandelions are a great source of potassium and act as a diuretic, or a great diuretic for our bodies. Meanwhile, clover was actually the building block for many lawn care seed mixes pre-World War II, because clover is a legume, which means it converts nitrogen gas into plant-accessible nitrogen of ammonium and nitrate. So this plant is a free fertilizer for our turf grass. So what happened to where today we consider both of these plants as weeds? Well, it actually had to do with a lot of ingenious marketing by conventional lawn care. I'm sure many people have seen images like this. Children or pets usually smiling, laying on a green, weed-free lawn. This type of marketing was started by Scott's Lawn Care Company in the 1920s, as they were producing pure grass seed mixes and their Scott's Turf Builder fertilizer. So Scott's company would incorporate these images in their new magazine called Lawn Care. And just after World War II, their Lawn Care magazine was distributed to more than 1 million US homeowners. At the same time, during World War II, scientists were researching biological weapons that will kill the vegetation of the enemy. And they discovered the chemical 2,4-D. Now, this chemical was actually never used during World War II, but companies later found out that 2,4-D would kill dicot plants like dandelions, clover, and chickweed, but leave our monocot plants or our grasses relatively unharmed. So now you can already see the benefit of this discovery for lawn care companies. And in fact, in 1948, Scott's Lawn Care Company develops the Scott's Turf Builder Weed and Feed product, which I had already mentioned is the most sold herbicide on the market today. There's only one problem with Scott's Turf Builder Weed and Feed, and that was that it killed clover, which was the basic building block for the majority of turf grass seed mixes pre-World War II, including for Scott's company, which offered its own turf grass seed mix called Clovex. Well, Scott's company was able to change that perception of clover thanks to more ingenious marketing and some traits of clover that were undesirable for US homeowners, such as attracting bees and creating slippery surfaces. And that led to, in the 1950s or 1960s, the public now considering clover as a weed. So my solution for you, if you want to have a more short-term way or option to eliminate your synthetic pesticide and fertilizer use, is to bring back clover into our lawns. This concept is called EcoLawns, and there's a couple of companies across the US that are leading the charge in this transition. One company is called ProTime Lawn Seed. They're a woman-owned company out in Portland, Oregon. And I'm going to feature 3 images of some of their mixes that they offer for US homeowners. This very first one is their staple lawn care mix called the Fleur de Lawn mix. It includes perennial ryegrass, a number of fescue grasses, sweet alyssum, baby blue eyes, English daisy, strawberry clover, and of course their patented microclover. Microclover is a little different than the Dutch white clover that we're used to and that we call weed right now, in that it doesn't spread as frequently as the Dutch white clover. So if you apply this onto your lawns, it won't spread into your neighbor's lawn if they don't want this plant. This mix is mow once a month. You don't need to water it because clover stays green throughout the season. It's a very drought tolerant plant. You don't need to apply any fertilizers because remember, clover is a legume that recycles that nitrogen. And you don't need to use any herbicides because that will kill all the wildflowers that is in this mix. So what we like about this is it's low maintenance, it's low mow, and most importantly, it's low inputs for our lawns. Here's another mix, a little bit more simpler. It's called the Rough and Ready mix, and it is perennial ryegrass, their fescue grasses, and microclover. This is a very shade tolerant mix that you can see. It's in a shade tolerant area. This is actually a lawn, I believe, in the North Chicago suburbs right now. Once again, mow once per month, very drought tolerant. You don't need to apply any fertilizers. You don't need to apply any herbicides for this lawn. And the final mix is their dog park EcoLawn mix, which is salt tolerant for pet urine. This needs a little bit more sunlight than the Rough and Ready mix. So it's not a shade tolerant, but it's wear tolerant, just like the Rough and Ready mix. And it is drought tolerant. Don't need to use any herbicides, don't need to use any pesticides. Midwest Grows Green strongly believes that EcoLawns is a great solution for homeowners that don't want to do a lot of maintenance and don't want to apply any of these synthetic chemicals that we've been talking about throughout the time. But we understand this isn't the perfect solution because people still like that kind of monoculture turf grass in their lawns. So what Midwest Grows Green is trying to do is we promote natural lawn care, we promote EcoLawns, and we just promote sustainable landscaping overall. Because we just want to encourage this large-scale community change that will actually reduce synthetic inputs in our communities. And to do that, we share the pesticide reduction message many times and in many ways to inspire true action. I already covered the 3 programs, the point of purchase, the pesticide-free parks, and the community engagement. And I just want to share how all 3 of these can kind of come together in one community. And I'm going to do it through a new program that we've called the Natural Lawn Care Technical Assistance Program. These are images from River Forest. So we're actually helping the River Forest Park District this year transition a sports field called Keystone East Park away from synthetic pesticides and fertilizers. And we did a number of things for the River Forest Park District. The very first thing that we did was we looked at their management of all their parks. They have about 9 parks across the park district. And we tell them to let us know how many pesticide applications are happening at their parks, how many fertilizer applications are happening at their parks, their aeration schedule, their overseeding, and everything like that. And with that information, we wanted to see, if we could shift time and resources from their management in their other parks to the natural management of this park that you can see at the bottom left, which I said was Keystone East Park. So that gives us kind of a basic overview of where we're starting with the River Forest Park District. Then we moved into our second phase, where we actually, we have a soil scientist, his name is Vitas Papadinskis, and he brought all his soil testing equipment to Keystone East Field that you can see here on the top left. He tested the soil, he looked at soil compaction, he looked at the weed density, and he also assessed, some other soil issues. And then over the winter, this past winter, he developed a 3-year natural lawn care management plan for Keystone East Park. With that information, we are now in the implementation phase of that 3-year natural lawn care management plan. We are right now going to be sourcing some compost top dressing for Keystone East Park. They're going to do some aeration. They're going to do some overseeding. They're going to do some fertilization. And while this is all going on, Midwest Grows Green is going to be doing our community engagement work. We're going to be installing signage that you can see on the image to the right that talks about what's going on in this site. And if you want to learn more about natural lawn care and apply these practices, we include a link to our website at midwestgrowsgreen.org. We're also going to do a press release for the River Forest Park District that talks about this work. We will create social media posts for River Forest, and we might also come up with a community engagement event that talks about our work. So it's a very comprehensive marketing plan that we're doing around this transition that is occurring at Keystone East Park. So if you are interested in this natural lawn care technical assistance program, we're actually offering this program, the services that we are offering free to 3 new communities. And we have an open application at this link, bit.ly/mggandcaps. app in uncaps in 2021. And the application deadline for that is Friday, May 28th of this year. We will choose 3 communities and we'll start working with them in the fall of 2021. Here are some more resources for Midwest Grows Green. If you want to learn about each of the 3 programs a little bit more, please visit midwestgrowsgreen.org. We also have a pledge that you can take that is an actionable commitment to reduce or eliminate your synthetic pesticide and fertilizer use. And you can take that at bit.ly/mggandcaps and then uncaps PLDG. And that enters you into a free newsletter that will tell you what you should be doing right now to transition your lawn away from synthetic pesticides and fertilizers. We have many more resources, toolkits, and fact sheets at bit.ly/mggandcaps. Resources and uncaps. That's our products for your natural lawn. We also have a calendar for a natural lawn care calendar and a list of Midwest organic or natural lawn care companies if you want a service provider from there. I had already mentioned we have lawnandland.org, which is really a resource for managers of large turf grass spaces or just large landscapes in general. And that website includes interviews with managers across the Midwest, recordings of those interviews, and links to different resources from university extensions for practices like compost, top dressing, aeration, and everything like that. And once again, the natural lawn care technical assistance is at bit.ly/mggandcaps, assistance and uncaps. I want to mention this 1 week, International Compost Awareness Week is coming up May 2nd through May 8th. Midwest Grows Green is very interested in this work that is being led by the Illinois Food Scrap Coalition. We're participating in it because we really want to expand compost top dressing across the greater Chicago area, because that will help our natural lawn care technical assistance program, and that'll just help sustainable landscaping in general. So they are having a series of 5 lunch and learns between noon and 1 p.m. Central Time, talking about different aspects of compost, such as sourcing compost, making compost, and also applying compost. So I encourage you to look up that series online. We'll be definitely tuning in from Midwest Grows Green side. And finally, if you have any questions about Midwest Grows Green, natural lawn care, EcoLawns, our natural lawn care technical assistance program, the best resource is myself. My name is Ryan Anderson. My email is randerson@ipminstitute.org, and my number is 773-878-8245. Thank you for your time. Thank you to Conservation Foundation and the DuPage County. I'll take questions.
Okay, thank you, Ryan, so much. And someone asked me to put this in the chat too. What is the name of the company that provides the Ecolon?
Yeah, their name is ProTime Lawn Seed.
Okay, ProTime Lawn Seed. Okay, and they asked me to put in chat, but I can send it out, because when this is done, I will send out the video link to our YouTube channel that will have this on it also, but I also send out the information with the Pro Time Lawn Care that's in Oregon. And the other question is, they asked about that too. And someone asked about, what about Creeping Charlie when you're trying to get rid of that? How do you get rid of Creeping Charlie?
Yeah, we get that question every time. So Creeping Charlie is one of the toughest weeds to get out naturally. First off, we did have a blog post, which was a really popular one with all of our organic lawn care companies in the Midwest. They offered a tip of how to control Creeping Charlie naturally. And here's the synopsis of basically what it is. Creeping Charlie tends to first be really grow well in poorly drained areas. So if you have any low-lying areas or anything like that, you might want to try to grade it and make sure that your soil kind of drains that water a lot better. If that's possible, you could also apply some compost. Remember, I said compost does a great job for drainage. It retains the water, but it doesn't trap the water. So that could be a consideration. I also hear for actual control, the best time tends to be in the summer when Creeping Charlie tends to let go of the soil. And so you can kind of just rake up that Creeping Charlie at the time. And whenever you do control or take out that Creeping Charlie, you want to make sure that you fill that bare soil area with turf grass seed, because remember, that is basically the best defense against weeds in general. And then finally, if Creeping Charlie is just taking up your whole lawn, you might want to consider just to go back from stage one. I've either do something that kills your whole lawn and then just reseed your lawn and start from stage one. That might be necessary too.
Okay, thank you. When you're talking too, I had the same question about the the seed mix. It sounded interesting. And also, you mentioned about the impact on the fertilizers and chemicals on humans and plants. But what does it do to the bioorganisms in the earthworms and stuff in the soil? What do commercial fertilizers and chemicals do to that also?
Yeah. So we actually, it's been very difficult to do the research on the actual impacts on the microbiology, because there's so much microbiology. 1 cup of soil includes 1 billion bacteria. So it's a very diverse ecosystem. But we actually did have a webinar in March that looked at the microbiology and the impact of pesticides and fertilizers. The researcher was Dr. Paul Koch from the University of Wisconsin. And they looked at what happened to the microbiological life with the application of some of the more popular pesticides. There's high toxicity pesticides. One was 2,4-D, which I had mentioned before, and then low toxicity pesticides. And they were able to see that the environment was altered in some way with some of these more common bacteria. But this was just preliminary results, and there's not a lot of other research around there. But what they basically concluded is there is some alteration when you apply these products, especially with the high toxicity products. But they're not really sure what that means for the overall environment, because some of the bacteria went up, some of them went down, and they don't know what that means for nutrient cycling or some of these other benefits. But it's safe to say that pesticides do alter, and if it's high toxicity, it tends to alter the environment more than a low toxicity or not applying pesticides at all. So I know that's not the greatest answer, but
that helps. That helps.
Mm-hmm.
Someone asked about what about using sod versus seed in spots where you need weed removal? Instead, when you need to replace it, can you put sod in there instead of seed? What does that do?
Yeah. So I don't know when I see sod, it tends to be like that whole huge area, not like spots fill of sod. So I don't really know of any company that would offer a kind of spot fill of sod. So I would just say, you know, a seed is just as good if you can get that seed, especially with that compost. The seed will germinate in, you know, a couple weeks.
And also, as the other consideration too, is the sod is going to be pretty thick. So if you
Mhm.
put that down, you're going to have different elevations in that area
Yeah.
when you try and get in, unless you dig it in and put it in and lower it to fit the rest of the height of your lawn also.
Mhm.
Yeah, and as Ryan said, one of the best preventions is, you know, mow your lawn high. My neighbor next door would scalp his lawn. I'd see it turn brown. It's like, oh my gosh. And he had so many weed problems. So keeping it high is really, set your mower high. And it makes a big difference in your lawn.
Absolutely. Mhm.
And I think another question. Someone said bare spots apply 50-50 compost with soil, and do you water with compost C if you use that mix?
I guess you could consider it. I think just compost and topsoil will work fine for the germination of the seed. You might also consider, if you can't get your hands on compost, an organic fertilizer, kind of like a starter fertilizer, to help that grass seed start to germinate will also work well.
Yeah, and so if people are interested in compost, we are having our plant sale, native tree, shrub, and vegetable plant sale coming up. And the sale starts on April 30th, and it's 1st and 2nd. But we do offer compost, and it's organic compost that you can actually get for your garden, and that would be a great addition to your lawn too. And we had a gentleman speak once before on soil, just soils, not lawn care, and he was saying what's critical for your lawn is the health of the soil, which is what you're promoting, instead of trying to always look for chemicals.
Mhm.
And the other good thing, if you have, I like to leave clover in my yard because the bunnies like it, and maybe they won't eat my plants, is what my thought is. Sometimes it doesn't work, but you know, it's an idea. So right now, I don't have any more questions. I will be sending the video out. So without any more questions, I want to say thank you, Ryan, for presenting today. I really appreciate it. And you know, we'll be in touch. And if you have any questions, send them to me, and I can get a hold of Ryan and see if we can answer those questions for you. So with that, everyone have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.